Hey people, get ready to crush everyday IELTS and CELPIP tests for all modules and make your dreams come true. I'm your motivator and I'll be guiding you through the test prep videos. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or you'll be missing out on some serious preparation.
Do you enjoy giving gifts to other people?
Yes, I really enjoy giving gifts to people. I think it makes the other person happy and shows that you care about them. I usually give gifts on birthdays and festivals. Sometimes it's hard to choose the right gift, but when the person likes it, I feel very happy too.
Yes, I genuinely enjoy giving gifts to others, particularly when I manage to find something that truly suits the person's interests. I find the whole process quite rewarding, thinking about what someone would appreciate and then watching their reaction when they open it. I tend to give gifts on special occasions like birthdays and festivals, and I always try to personalize them rather than just buying something generic.
Absolutely, I take considerable pleasure in giving gifts, especially when I've put real thought into selecting something meaningful. There's something deeply satisfying about identifying a person's passions or needs and finding a gift that reflects that understanding. I recall giving my sister a book by her favorite author last year, and her delight made the effort entirely worthwhile. I believe a well-chosen gift communicates far more than its monetary value. It signals attention, care, and genuine affection for the recipient.
What kinds of gifts are popular in your country?
In my country, people often give practical gifts like clothes, food, or household items. Electronics are also very popular, especially for young people. During festivals, people usually give sweets or traditional things. Money in a red envelope is also common at celebrations like weddings or the New Year.
Gift-giving traditions in my country vary quite a bit depending on the occasion. For birthdays, people tend to choose personal items such as clothing, jewelry, or tech gadgets. During festive seasons, food hampers and traditional sweets are widely given. Cash gifts in decorative envelopes are also extremely popular at weddings and lunar celebrations, as money is considered a practical and respectful gesture rather than an impersonal one.
Gift preferences in my country are quite varied and tend to be shaped by the occasion, the recipient's age, and regional customs. For younger people, technology products and branded accessories are particularly sought after, whereas for elders, health supplements and premium food items are considered more appropriate and respectful. During major celebrations such as the Lunar New Year and weddings, monetary gifts remain the predominant choice, as they offer practical value. Interestingly, experimental gifts such as spa vouchers and dining experiences are gaining popularity amongst the urban middle class.
Do you think it's better to give someone a gift or give them money?
I think it depends on the person and the situation. Money is very useful because people can buy what they really want. But a gift shows more thought and care. I usually prefer to give a gift because it feels more personal, but for close family, money is sometimes easier.
That's an interesting question. I think both have their merits, but it really comes down to the relationship and occasion. A thoughtfully chosen gift demonstrates that you know and understand the person, which can feel deeply meaningful. On the other hand, money gives the recipient complete freedom to spend it however they wish. Personally, I lean towards giving gifts for close friends but tend to give money for more formal occasions like weddings.
This is a nuanced question, and I genuinely believe the answer varies considerably depending on context. A carefully selected gift carries an emotional weight that money simply cannot replicate. It communicates intimacy, attentiveness, and the fact that you've invested time in considering someone's preferences. However, I'd argue that money is arguably more considerate in certain situations, particularly when you're uncertain about someone's tastes or when they have a specific financial goal in mind. The ideal scenario, in my view, is a meaningful gift accompanied by a heartfelt personal note, which combines sentiment with substance.
Do you prefer rainy or sunny weather?
I prefer sunny weather because it makes me feel happy and energetic. I like going outside and doing outdoor activities when the weather is nice. Rainy weather sometimes makes me feel a bit sad and I don't like getting wet. But sometimes a little rain is refreshing, especially in summer when it's very hot.
Honestly, I find myself drawn to sunny weather for the most part, as it tends to boost my mood and motivate me to be more active. I enjoy being able to go for walks or meet friends outdoors without worrying about the weather. That said, I do have a certain fondness for rainy days when I'm at home. There's something wonderfully cozy about curling up with a good book while listening to the rain.
My preference genuinely shifts depending on my circumstances. In general, I gravitate towards sunny weather because it heightens my energy levels and creates opportunities for outdoor pursuits. I'm particularly fond of cycling and hiking, which are far more enjoyable in bright conditions. However, I've come to appreciate rainy weather in a different way. There's an undeniable atmospheric quality to overcast skies and the sound of rainfall that I find conducive to creativity and reflection. I suppose what I truly value is variety. A prolonged stretch of either extreme becomes tedious quite quickly.
Does the weather affect your mood?
Yes, definitely. When it's sunny and warm, I feel more cheerful and want to go outside. But when it's cloudy or raining for many days, I feel a bit low and tired. I think most people are affected by the weather. It's hard to feel motivated when it's grey and cold outside.
Absolutely, the weather has a noticeable impact on how I feel. On bright, sunny days I tend to feel more optimistic and productive. I'm more likely to exercise, socialize, and tackle tasks I've been putting off. In contrast, prolonged grey or rainy weather can make me feel sluggish and less motivated. I've read that this is actually a well-documented psychological phenomenon, so I know I'm certainly not alone in experiencing it.
Without a doubt, weather exerts a significant influence on my emotional state, though I've become increasingly aware of this connection over time. Sunshine genuinely elevates my spirits. I feel more energized, sociable, and mentally sharp on bright days, and I'm far more inclined to pursue physical activity and engage with people. Conversely, persistent overcast conditions can induce a kind of low-level melancholy that requires conscious effort to counteract. I understand this is related to serotonin and vitamin D levels, which are directly influenced by sunlight exposure, and I've learned to manage it by maintaining a structured routine regardless of conditions.
What do people in your country typically do when it rains heavily?
When it rains heavily, most people stay indoors. They watch TV, cook at home, or rest. If they have to go outside, they use umbrellas or raincoats. Shopping malls become very busy on rainy days because people go there to avoid the rain. Some people also use this time to meet friends in cafes or restaurants.
Heavy rain tends to prompt people in my country to retreat indoors, either at home or in covered public spaces like shopping centers, which become noticeably busier during downpours. Many people use the opportunity to catch up on household tasks, watch films, or cook comfort food. Those who must travel usually rely on umbrellas or motorcycle rain ponchos, which are extremely common. Flooding can occasionally be an issue in some cities, which disrupts daily commuting significantly.
The response to heavy rain in my country is quite fascinating from a sociological perspective. Most people instinctively withdraw to indoor environments, homes, cafes, and shopping complexes all see a surge in footfall during prolonged downpours. There's also a distinctly communal aspect to it. People gather around warm food and beverages, and it often becomes an occasion for socializing or family bonding. However, in densely populated urban areas, heavy rainfall can trigger serious flooding and traffic gridlock, which creates considerable frustration for daily commuters and disrupts the rhythm of city life substantially.
Please begin speaking now.
A social event I really enjoyed was my cousin's wedding celebration, which happened about 2 years ago in my hometown. It was a big outdoor party held in the evening, and there were nearly 200 guests, including many family members and old friends I hadn't seen for a while. The event took place at a lovely garden restaurant near the city centre. My whole family attended, my parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. We enjoyed traditional food, and there was live music and dancing throughout the night. I enjoyed it so much because I had the chance to reconnect with people I hadn't seen in years. The atmosphere was very warm and friendly, and I felt genuinely happy being surrounded by the people I love. The food was also delicious. There were many traditional dishes that reminded me of my childhood. I believe events like this are very important because they bring families and friends together, and it is a memory I will always treasure.
The social event I'd like to talk about is a graduation dinner party that my university friends organized to celebrate the end of our final exams. It took place about 3 years ago at a rooftop restaurant in the city centre, and I have to say it remains one of the most memorable evenings of my life. There were around 15 of us altogether, my closest classmates from the engineering faculty, along with a few friends from other departments whom we'd met during our university years. We'd booked the venue several weeks in advance because we wanted somewhere truly special to mark such an important milestone. What made it particularly enjoyable was a combination of factors. Firstly, there was a genuine sense of achievement in the air. We had all worked incredibly hard and finally reached the end of a challenging journey. Secondly, the setting was stunning, with panoramic views of the city skyline as the sun gradually set. We shared stories, laughed about our experiences, and made promises to stay in touch after graduation. I also remember the food being exceptional, a carefully curated menu featuring both local and international dishes. But honestly, it was the people and the shared sense of accomplishment that made the evening truly special and meaningful.
The social event that immediately springs to mind is a surprise birthday gathering that my closest friends organized for me when I turned 25. It took place on a Saturday evening in late spring, roughly 4 years ago, at a converted warehouse space that had been transformed into a stylish pop-up venue in the arts district of our city. I had absolutely no idea it was being planned. My best friend had cunningly told me we were simply going out for a quiet dinner, so when I walked through the door to find nearly 30 of my friends, some of whom had traveled from other cities specifically for the occasion, I was completely overwhelmed with emotion. What elevated the evening beyond a typical gathering was the extraordinary level of thought that had gone into every detail. Each guest had been asked to bring a handwritten memory or anecdote about our friendship, which were then read aloud throughout the evening. It was simultaneously hilarious and deeply touching. The venue itself had been decorated with photographs chronicling the past decade of our friendships, which lent the proceedings an almost cinematic quality. The food was exceptional, a grazing table laden with artisan cheeses, charcuterie, and seasonal produce, and there was a live acoustic guitarist whose understated performance perfectly complemented the intimate atmosphere. What I cherish most, however, is the profound reminder it gave me of how fortunate I am to be surrounded by such genuinely thoughtful and generous people. It remains, without question, the most meaningful social occasion I have ever attended.
Do you think social events are becoming more or less important in people's lives compared to the past?
I think social events are still very important, maybe even more than before. Today, many people spend a lot of time on their phones and social media, so they have less time for real, face-to-face meetings. Social events give people a chance to connect in a real way, which I think is very valuable. Meeting in person is very different from chatting online because you can really talk and feel properly connected to other people.
That's an interesting question. I'd say social events are actually becoming more important, not less, precisely because of how much our daily lives have moved online. When you think about it, digital communication has made it easier than ever to maintain surface-level contact with people, but it simply can't replace the depth of connection that comes from spending time together in person. I've noticed that people now tend to place greater value on those moments when they actually gather together, perhaps because they're increasingly rare. In some ways, the contrast with our digital lives makes physical social events feel more special and meaningful than they might have done in the past.
It's a nuanced question, and I'd argue that while the frequency of social events may have declined in certain contexts, driven partly by urbanization, increasingly fragmented schedules, and the proliferation of digital alternatives, their perceived significance has actually heightened considerably. There's a growing body of research suggesting that loneliness is becoming something of a public health crisis in many developed societies, which speaks directly to the inadequacy of online interaction as a substitute for genuine human connection. What I find particularly compelling is how this shift has fundamentally altered the nature of social events themselves. People are increasingly selective about which ones they attend, and consequently invest more emotionally and socially in those they do choose. There's a deliberateness to modern socializing that perhaps simply didn't exist when gathering together was the default way people spent their leisure time.
In what ways do you think social events help to strengthen relationships within a community?
Social events are really important for communities because they bring people together. When people attend events like festivals or parties, they can meet their neighbors and make new friends. I think this helps people feel less lonely and more connected. In modern life, many people are quite busy and don't often speak to those around them, so events like these give everyone a chance to bond. I believe communities with more social events tend to be happier overall.
Social events play a significant role in fostering a sense of belonging among community members. When people gather for shared occasions, whether it's a neighborhood street party or a cultural festival, they naturally engage in conversation and discover common interests. This process helps break down social barriers that might otherwise exist between individuals from different backgrounds. Furthermore, regular community events create a sense of shared identity and tradition, which can be especially valuable in urban areas where anonymity is common. I think societies that invest in communal gatherings tend to have stronger social support networks.
Social events serve as a vital mechanism for cultivating solidarity and reinforcing the social fabric of communities. When individuals from diverse socioeconomic or cultural backgrounds converge at communal gatherings, they are afforded opportunities to humanize one another beyond superficial stereotypes. Shared experiences, whether celebratory or commemorative, generate collective memories that anchor people to a specific place and group identity. Moreover, the informal dialogue that emerges at such events often facilitates collaborative problem-solving at a grassroots level, as residents exchange concerns and ideas organically. In increasingly atomized societies, where digital interaction frequently substitutes for face-to-face contact, the restorative function of physical gatherings arguably becomes more indispensable than ever. Communities that prioritize such events tend to demonstrate measurably greater resilience during periods of crisis or social disruption.
Do you think the way people celebrate social events has changed significantly over the past few decades? Why?
Yes, I think social events have changed a lot. In the past, people would just meet in person and enjoy the moment without any distractions. But nowadays, many people spend a lot of time on their phones taking photos or posting on social media during events. Also, some events have become bigger and more expensive than before. I think people today care more about how the event looks rather than really enjoying it. This is a bit sad, in my opinion.
Undoubtedly, the nature of social celebrations has undergone considerable transformation over recent decades. One of the most noticeable shifts is the influence of social media, which has turned many personal gatherings into performances designed for online audiences. People now feel pressure to document every moment rather than simply being present. Additionally, social events have become more commercially driven, with entire industries built around weddings, birthday parties, and festivals. On a positive note, technology has also enabled virtual participation, allowing people separated by distance to remain connected during important occasions. Overall, while social events remain meaningful, their focus has perhaps shifted from genuine human connection towards image and presentation.
The evolution of social celebrations over the past few decades has been both profound and multifaceted. Perhaps the most significant catalyst for change has been the ubiquity of digital technology, which has fundamentally altered the psychology of participation. Where gatherings once existed primarily as lived experiences, many contemporary events are now curated partly, or even predominantly, for virtual consumption through platforms such as Instagram or TikTok. This performative dimension introduces a layer of self-consciousness that can paradoxically undermine authentic enjoyment. Simultaneously, the commercialization of celebration has escalated dramatically. Industries have emerged to commodify milestones such as weddings and landmark birthdays, driving up both expectations and expenditure. However, it would be reductive to frame these changes purely negatively. Technological advances have democratized access to cultural events and facilitated more inclusive, hybrid formats that transcend geographical boundaries, preserving the intrinsic value of communal celebration in new forms.
Some people argue that large-scale public events are a waste of government resources. To what extent do you agree with this view?
I partially agree with this idea. Large events like national festivals or concerts can cost the government a lot of money. This money could maybe be used for more important things like hospitals or schools. However, I also think these events are important because they make people feel proud of their country and happy. They also bring tourists and help the economy. So I don't completely agree that they are a waste. I think it depends on how well the government manages the money.
I would largely disagree with that viewpoint. Whilst it is true that large-scale public events require considerable public funding, the returns they generate are often substantial. Major events such as national celebrations or international festivals attract significant tourist spending, create temporary employment, and boost local businesses. Beyond the economic rationale, these events fulfill an important social function by fostering national pride and providing accessible, shared cultural experiences that transcend social class. That said, governments must ensure adequate transparency and accountability in how funds are allocated to prevent unnecessary overspending. When well managed, public events represent an investment in social well-being rather than an extravagance.
This is a nuanced debate that resists a straightforward conclusion. Opponents of public funding for large-scale events often cite opportunity costs, arguing that resources diverted towards spectacle could instead address pressing social deficits in housing, healthcare, or education. This concern carries genuine merit, particularly when events become susceptible to financial mismanagement or serve primarily as vehicles for political prestige rather than public benefit. Nevertheless, I would contend that dismissing such events as wasteful fundamentally underestimates their multifaceted value. From an economic standpoint, flagship events frequently generate considerable returns through tourism, hospitality revenue, and infrastructure development that endures well beyond the event itself. Culturally and psychologically, communal celebrations perform an irreplaceable function in fostering collective identity and national morale, outcomes that are difficult to quantify but nonetheless vital to social cohesion. The crux of the matter, therefore, is not whether governments should fund such events, but rather how rigorously financial stewardship and measurable outcomes are enforced.
Hey people, how was your test? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or you'll be missing out on some serious fun. See you tomorrow!